Every woman has a story, a journey to discovering who she is and finding her truth in the world. This is where women come together to find connection through sharing those stories and to help each of us answer the question, who am I? Without labels, without judgment, and without anybody else's expectations. Welcome to the story of her. What's your story? So, Renee Hastings, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast today. And I want to just start by you just introducing yourself to us and telling us what you're passionate about right now.
Hey, so my name is Renee Hastings. I am the president and CEO of Executive Help Now, which is a virtual assistant service agency. Right now, I am super passionate about keeping my team busy. So I have an entire team of about 40 virtual assistants, and they are all incredibly amazing. And I want nothing more than to put them all to work and make sure that they are all maxed out in terms of their capacity with client work. So that's one thing that gets me up every morning and keeps me going every day. And in terms of work. So that's what I'm most passionate about. And then, of course, we have our family and just different things that make me happy too.
For many of us, who we were growing up helped shape who we become. Are there any particular stories that stand out to you from your past?
Absolutely. So, and I'm going to have to go way back.
Take us back. Take us back.
So, my grandfather was a sharecropper, and he moved his family from the South to Wisconsin, to an Amish community in Wisconsin.
Wow.
So, as you can imagine, being a Black person in that area, there were no other people around who looked like us. So, my grandfather became very well known. My grandfather, my uncles, my aunts, the whole family became very well known because we were the only ones around. So, in our little Amish community, if people mentioned our names, they knew exactly who you were talking about. And with that came a responsibility to provide people with an experience that defied any stereotypes that they may have thought in their heads before they met us. So, I'm going to come back and dive a little bit deeper into that.
Mhm.
But this community where we lived was the kind of place where you could make a deal with a handshake. Nobody locked doors. Everyone was honest. If someone had to borrow your car, the keys were already in it. They knew it. They could take it and they could bring it back with the gas in it. And you know they were going to bring it back, even if you didn't know who took it. Because that's just the type of community we lived in. There was no crime. I actually took my husband up there when we were still just dating, and he asked my grandmother, "Do the police ever come out here?" And my grandmother said, I saw the sheriff out here a couple years ago, but that was when somebody from out of town came to visit family and they started a ruckus." Yeah, so and that's the way we grew up. No crime whatsoever. And so what my grandfather did as a sharecropper is grow mint. So we had lots of land that we were working that belonged to somebody else. And my grandfather rented, that's what sharecroppers do. They
Right.
rent the land, but then they work it for somebody else. And all my uncles did the same thing. And every summer, us kids got to go and work the fields as well. So when you're growing mint, you start in a little muck field. People probably don't know what that is, but it's an awesome field of very rich dirt that you start growing things in, and you move it later as it grows, after it's grown up, into a larger field that's acres and acres and acres. And it's from that young age that a very strong work ethic was developed for me and all of my cousins and my aunts and uncles. And it was so that we could represent the family well. It was ingrained in us from little. This is who you are. You are a representative of this family in this community. So you must operate at a level of excellence to defy any stereotypes that people may have of us. So I don't know if that was a label, but it's just kind of created the foundation
Yeah.
for who I am and how I operate and how I move and how I do things and my expectations of others. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that's kind of where it all stems. Does that make sense?
It does. And, it's interesting because that is both a beautiful and a terrible story because in some ways it's beautiful that you were given this gift of this wonderful community, but also terrible that you felt that like your family felt that they had to overcome that whatever anybody else might think. They had to show this is who we are. And it
Right.
doesn't matter what you've heard, this is who we are. And I
Mhm.
think that's just beautiful that they chose to do that. And I think it's also a really cool, I love metaphors. And your metaphor about the mint in the little field that's really high in nutrients and really good soil, and then you're transplanting it out into a bigger field that probably has less quality soil, right? Where it has a
Right.
little more room to grow. You grew up in this beautiful little community where you were loved and protected and safe, and then you were able to take that out into the world and
Yeah.
to grow. So it's just a beautiful little metaphor there for your
Well,
life.
you know what? I've told that story 100 times, and no one has ever said that.
I'm
I
I love
absolutely love
metaphors.
that. That is so beautiful. Yes, absolutely, and it is so appropriate because that's exactly what happened. I grew up in this amazing little community, with no crime, very safe, and then from there, developed this incredible work ethic, and then was able to be sent into the world to go and, you know, have room to grow, which
Right,
is what
and to bring good to others, which is
yeah.
just what you're doing, which is fantastic. Let's talk about high school. What was that like for you? So in a small community like that, did you go to a big high school? Did you go to a small high school? What was that like for you?
So my mother was a single mom. I'm the oldest daughter of a single mom. I have a younger brother that I grew up with, and she ended up leaving our little community to just travel and go to different places. So I actually went to a different school every year, and sometimes 2 or 3 schools in the same year because
Wow.
my mom moved around so much. So, when it comes to school, I never really, I don't know if I should say I never got labeled. Did get labeled. I didn't know if I got labeled because I didn't take enough time or interest to consider what other people thought of me.
Mhm.
Because, number 1, I was used to being different because of how I grew up, and because of how I grew up, I spoke very proper English. So if we moved into a community that was not as diverse as, full of white people, then I spoke like them. But if I moved
Mhm.
into a community that was full of Black people, I didn't speak like them. And so they would make fun of me and tease me and try to fight me, beat me up. Because they try to say, "Oh, you act like you so proper. You think you're better than us," and that kind of thing, and that was not true at all. Not
Right.
true at all. So, I learned from a very early age, and I don't know if this is good or bad either, but to focus more on my education than on relationships, because my mom always said to me, "No one can take your education away from you, and you're there to go to school to get an education, not to try to please people or make people happy or have all be Miss Popularity. That's not your role. Your role is to go there and get good grades and be excellent and know that all the work you do as a representative of this family, so do well."
So many times in high school, it is about our relationships, the labels that come with that, whether it's friend or girlfriend or even student to teacher, but you weren't focused on that relationship because you knew it was going to change.
Absolutely.
So instead, you had the freedom to focus on learning and growing as an individual and not in what your relationship was to someone else.
Well, in terms of book smarts, yes, that's all I really could focus on because I knew within a couple of months, mom was gonna be moving us, whether we liked it or not,
Hmm.
and things were gonna change, and I'd never see these people again. And so, I learned at a very early age not to get close to people because they're gonna leave, and then and that hurts.
Yeah.
And so I didn't like the way that felt, so I was like, I don't like this, I'm not doing this anymore." And so I focused on being smart. And, of course, as you know, later on in life, when it came time to start developing these relationships, I struggled.
I
I
bet.
truly struggled. And it wasn't until I met my husband, my now husband, at 28 that I actually figured out this whole friendship nurturing thing, So, and that's well after high school.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the other thing about high school is um, I graduated from high school at 16 with a 1-month-old son.
Oh, wow.
So it was because of I had this 1-month-old son, and I was now a teen mom, that a label was placed on me that here you are, you're Black, you're a woman, you're a teenager, and you're now a mother. You are gonna be a burden on society because you're gonna end up on welfare, and that kid is probably not gonna amount to much. So I knew what the statistics showed because they shared them with us in high school. So,
Right.
and so I said to myself, I'm not going to be another statistic. So when I graduated from high school, I ended up going straight to work so that I wouldn't be this burden on society and end up on welfare. So because I was through school, I was able to get emancipated, get my own apartment at 17
Wow.
and raise my son in an apartment complex right across the parking lot from my mom's apartment.
Close enough for comfort, but
Yes.
still some independence.
Yes, exactly. So it wouldn't be until many, many years later when I was in my late 30s that I got to go to college and get a college degree.
I imagine coming from that, you set the standard and people are going to judge you as you're growing up and you're very young, that you just really felt that pressure.
Mhm.
And you did amazing things, but kind of also it makes me sad that you didn't have the chance to just be yourself and grow at your own pace.
Right. Well, yeah, to do the things that kids do when kids do them. I look back and I see kids doing those things. I'm like, oh man, that must have been so nice. Now go to prom and to go to homecoming and all the games and all of the things yeah, that was not my life.
Right.
I didn't get to do those things. When I look back, of course, I should have listened to my mother who said, stop trying to grow up so fast. You'll be older soon enough. Quit trying to grow up so fast. Enjoy your youth. Be young. Go have fun. So yeah. Hindsight is
That's
2020.
Of course it is. Of course it is. How do you feel like that experience at 16 to graduate from high school, to go get a job, be the supporter of this little boy? How do you feel like that set up your ideas of what you expect from yourself versus just what society expected from you? Because you were fighting against that.
Right. Because I didn't want to be another statistic,
Yeah.
So I was like, this is what the statistics say. You're going to be on welfare and you're going to be a burden on society. And so I was like, oh no, I'm not. No, I am going to work. And so I started making very good money. And so my focus became, how can I continue to do well using these skills that I had discovered and learned and developed, over the years? Because one of the things I didn't mention is that my mom put me in a summer youth employment program when I was like 12 years old. And that helped me to learn and identify skills and abilities that I had that came naturally. And
Oh,
those skills were organizing and helping people and business type of office type of work. I really did well with doing those things. And so it was through the continual nurturing and growing in those skills that I was able to come out of school at 16 and land a job with the state of Wisconsin Department of Transportation, I think it was. Gosh, it seems like that's 100 years ago. But I got a very, very good job, very well-paying job at 17 years old.
wow. That's a blessing. Somebody was watching out for you. Sounds like your mom for starters.
Yes, mom. Yes, thanks, mom.
Yeah. So it sounds like multiple times in your younger years, you were put in boxes by other people or by society's expectations. Why do you feel like we're so wired to put each other in boxes, to say you are this and to categorize each other? Do you think that's something we can overcome as a society?
I think that a lot of it has to do with culture.
Hmm.
A lot of it has to do with our parents' upbringing and the expectations of them, which they feel like they might need to impose on their children. Because I asked my mom why she was so adamant about me getting a great education. And she shared with me that she was so adamant about me getting a great education because she was deprived of it. She was not allowed to go to school. She wasn't able to be a kid and do all those kid things because they were too busy working. They were a family of 9, and the more kids you had to work in the fields with you as a sharecropper, the more money you would make. And so my grandfather and grandmother's focus, I think it's mainly my grandfather's, focus was on making money.
Yeah.
So she wasn't able to have the education that she wanted. And so she wanted something different for her kids. And that's why she was so adamant about that for me. And so I think there's a lot that goes into expectations of our children. And same for, other families. If your father is a professional, executive or whatever, he has expectations of you, if you're, they're his son or his daughter or whatever, that you too will make something of your life. And I put that in air quotes.
Right.
Because that makes something is different for each individual. And when you're a child and you're discovering who you are as an individual, that something is so relative.
It is.
No?
And as
Yeah,
a parent,
subjective.
because when we suddenly have adult children and they take paths or they're making choices that we're like, wait, that's not the story I wrote for you. I wrote a different story, We're
Yeah.
like, we want them to follow the story we wrote for them. But
Yeah.
it is hard as parents to step back and go, oh, this is your story to write.
Mhm.
And then you take all of the cultural expectations and you add to it. That's a lot. So was it
Right.
hard for you when you're I know you have a son. Do you have other kids as well?
I do. I have actually 2 sons, and they're 5 years apart. So
Was it
it
hard for
was
you to let them write their own story, or did you feel more of a push to
it was I'm having to do some introspection here and being honest with myself and your audience. So when it came to me allowing my children to make their choices for their lives, I really wanted them to make choices that would allow them to be self-sufficient like I had been from such an early age. I had to be strong. I had to be tough. I had to fight through any, feelings of negativity or insecurity because I didn't have that luxury because
Yeah,
I had children to keep alive. And so there was no not doing something just because I didn't feel like it. You know
right.
what I mean? I had to do it whether I liked it or not because it wasn't just me that I was responsible for. I had mouths to feed. And so I wanted them to take career paths or do jobs that would shore up their future
Mhm.
so that they wouldn't have to struggle, so that they wouldn't have to work so hard. And statistics show that the more education you have, the less physical labor you tend to have to do. So
Right.
I really wanted them to get lots of education so that their lives could be easier. And as they got older and they were influenced by their friends and surroundings and things like that, they decided, on some levels to follow them in doing what they were doing. And then as they continue to get older and they, maybe saw the error of their ways, still trying to error correct, but I'm, here, I'm mom, I'm still mom. I'm still here to guide them as they're making these decisions and then to warn them as to what I see because, I'm a little older. I've been here a little longer and can kind of help you navigate these things. But then the bottom line of it is, look, this is your choice. You
Yeah.
get to choose. But just know that for every choice you make, there is a consequence. And if you choose not to go to school, and if you choose not to get a job, if you choose not to be stable, your life is going to end up being a sum of those choices that you have made. But just know it's never too late to make different choices and better choices. So
I
you
love
can
that.
always turn things around if things aren't turning out the way you thought that they initially would.
That's a beautiful little microcosm of parenting advice right there. Make the good choices because there are consequences, but if you don't, it's never too late to turn around and make the right choices. So I really do love that. I have 2 adult children and it has been and then 3 children still at home and just trying to find that balance. Yes, I have 5 children. Um,
Wow.
just trying to find that balance between like how I would parent my 8-year-old and how I parent or interact with my almost 22-year-old is such a
Wow.
different it's such a different journey and I'm still figuring it out. I haven't got it figured. My if my children are listening to this, they'll tell you firsthand. I have not yet figured it out completely, but we get through it together.
I think you're so blessed, first of all, to have
Yeah.
5 children. And, there are people say the toughest age to parent is toddlers, the 2-year-olds. And I look back and I give them the side eye like, "No,
They
you
haven't
wait."
they haven't had older children yet. That's all I'm saying.
No, the hardest parenting stage is parenting adults because you can talk to you are blue in the face about something that they are trying to decide to do that you know full well is going to end up disastrous, just disastrous. And they still choose to go down that path. And all you can do is watch them walk right off the cliff and plummet
Yep.
to the
Yep.
bottom. And then when they get down there and then they call you, they're like, Mom, I screwed up. I'm like, yeah, I know, but come here. Let me give you a hug and kiss it, make it better, and make better choices next time, and then smack them upside.
Yeah. At least take a parachute, right? Like, jump off that cliff.
Something.
Oh, well, as we're talking about parenting kids and you're talking about your childhood and growing up, I wonder what your thoughts are on this. Do you feel like our identity is ever set? Do we come to Earth with a certain identity and we just figure it out? Or does it change as we grow? Or some hybrid?
I honestly think that our identity is shaped by the time that we are currently in. So, as a child, my identity was shaped by my mom and my surroundings and my community where I lived. As I got older, my identity was shaped by the educational system and how they viewed me as a parent to my child and those
Hmm.
sorts of things. And so it was important for me to not just appear like a good parent, but to actually be a good parent and an employee and things like that, and wife eventually. So those things kind of shaped who I was then. And I'm grateful for those things and those times and those opportunities for me to show up in different ways. Because if it wasn't for those experiences, I wouldn't be who I am today. A very I want to say strong and confident businesswoman, but I don't know why I struggled with that just now.
But it's hard for us to say the things that we are, is what I've noticed. I see you as a strong and confident businesswoman, someone that is inspirational, someone from the moment you've gotten on this call, you have been smiles and excitement, enthusiasm. Like you are someone to look up to. But it's harder to see ourselves that way. So I'm going to ask you a question that was not in my questions. And this just popped into my head. So do what you will with it. We can revisit at the end if you want, but I want to know, what are your I am statements? What are the statements about who you are as a person? Like one I might say is, I am a hard worker.
I am resilient. I am strong. I am a daughter of the Most High King who loves me so much, who's got lots of kids, but I'm his favorite. Yeah, those are my I think those are my main I ams.
And that totally came out. As you were talking, those things came out. It's hard for us to own those things sometimes. Do you think there are some labels that you have worn over the last few years of your life that pulled away from those I am statements or added to them?
Hmm. I would say this whole entrepreneurial journey that I've been on since, well, I started the business in 2014, but it really started to pick up in 2019. And I've been 100% all in on it full time for almost 3 years. So I want to say I'm starting back 3 years. When I took that leap of faith to leave corporate America and the security blanket of the regular 2-week paycheck and the paid vacations and
401k.
all of the benefits and all the things to be 100% dedicated to being a business owner. That's when um, I really discovered what I was really made of. I think it was a label that I put on myself as to who I am, because as a woman, I believe in God, as I just mentioned, that and that I have this, it's not a religion that I belong to, but actually that's a relationship that we have. So we like talk all day long. It's through needing constant spiritual guidance as well as being surrounded by wise counsel that I've been able to wear new labels that I'm happy to wear, like business owner, like leader, like negotiator, like deal maker, and all of the things that come with owning your own business. So yeah, I think that the labels just they change and they enhance what you
Mhm.
already were. It's not like you're something new. You're just different than what you used to be.
It's it's like sometimes the labels that we don't need anymore fall away and are replaced by ones that work better for us at that point in time. And I love that you said these are labels you have chosen for yourself. You're not focusing on labels the world might put on you,
Mm.
right? You're like, I'm going to focus on what I have done and what I have chosen. And that is, it sounds like 16-year-old Renee is speaking a little bit. Nobody's going to tell me what statistic I am. I'm going to
Right.
be my own statistic. I love
Right.
that.
Right. And one of the things I discovered in all of this, Aleesha, is that as I am putting on these new labels and walking in this new space, things that were ingrained in me from little are starting to show themselves that that I didn't even know were still there or that were there at all. And for example, as the business started to grow and become more successful, I'd pray and I'd talk to God and I'm like, Lord, just bless this business. Whatever you want to have done with this business, just use me to be a vessel to do your will and to bless your people. And that's was my whole focus. Well, as you know, well, hopefully, and if you don't now, God answers prayers.
Yes, he does.
And so he was blessing the business. And then as he was blessing the business, it started to freak me out. And I was like, why am I freaked out by being blessed? I don't even understand. This success is what I've been praying for. But now that it's happening, I want to run the other direction. Like, I don't know if I can trust this. This is like so strange. This is so bizarre. I don't understand it. And so I was leading a small group of women at the time. We had a Bible study. I was like, y'all need to pray for me because something wrong. Something is wrong with me that I am having such a difficult time being the recipient of such goodness. And I mean, because people have been nice to me my whole life. Yes, of course. I mean, I'm nice. I expect people to be nice and that sort of thing. But to be blessed, like God has been blessing the business, that was a whole nother level of nice,
Yeah.
And I don't know if that is a label. I think I carried a label of struggle or a label of hustle or a label of just enough or a label of not worthy of abundance that I didn't recognize.
Yeah.
And so through through my constant prayer and for healing of that and my community that I surrounded myself with that prayed with me and just believed for me and my healing, I was able to overcome that and now operate on a whole nother level and just trusting God for even more.
That is so powerful because I think it is really easy for us. I don't know it as humans or as women. I don't know whether it's for everybody, but I know for me, and I've seen it in a lot of other people, it's really hard for us to believe we, like you said, are worthy of blessing. We're worthy of receiving those things. And we know we are. It's not that. It's just being able to receive it. It's like we're constantly giving, we're constantly doing. The first word you use to identify yourself is resilient. To identify as resilient, you also have to identify as someone who struggles, right?
Mhm.
Someone who has been through hard things.
Yeah.
And so that's all wrapped up in who you've been for so long. What I found so beautiful in what you just said is that you found through community, through this group of women that you would meet with and have Bible study, and through trusting your relationship with God to get you through that. Was there anything else that you can add to for someone else who might be struggling to feel like they're worthy of success, that they are worthy of blessings or love?
Number one is God, of course, because that came from a place of hurt from a long, long time ago of the way that I was raised. And when you're just going through life and dealing with everything one day at a time, you don't dream, you don't have goals, you just are glad to get through the day.
Yeah.
That's a success, just making it to the next day. I would say if a woman is struggling to understand her value and her worth, to number one, pray that God reveal to her who she is to him, and that she recognize his love for her. And that because of that love, she's able to love herself. And once she's able to love herself, then she's able to love others better.
Mm-hmm.
And when she starts seeing herself operate in those ways, then it becomes a natural byproduct, this worthiness feeling, I think, of that. But it first starts with getting to know who you are and how God sees you and how much he loves you.
What a gift if everyone could truly see themselves as God sees them,
Yeah.
right? Wouldn't that be such a gift? Like,
Yes.
I think all the hate and ugliness would go out of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a heart thing. I mean, once your heart knows without a shadow of a doubt, I am valuable. I am loved. I am good, and God loves me no matter what, even though I made all kind of mistakes yesterday and this morning, you know,
And I'll make some more tonight.
and I'll make some more tonight and tomorrow. He's still going to keep on loving me
Yeah.
no matter what, because he's a good dad like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it right there. I wonder if you could tell us, are there any stories you feel like you have told yourself over the years that aren't true? Sometimes we come up with these ideas. I'm not smart. I'm not funny. I'm not capable. Or, you know, because I am this, I can't have that. Are there any things that you can think of that you had to get over?
Well, one was that the worthy one. I said to myself unknowingly, I unknowingly said to myself that I was not worthy of abundance. And so much so that I couldn't even say the word abundance and my name together. So I think because of how I was raised with this resilience and with this, I don't know what the word is for it, but basically it's you can do whatever you put your mind to, is how my mom raised me.
Hmm.
And so I have that ingrained in me. So when I come against challenges, I remember those words and remember that I can do whatever I put my mind to. So does that mean I need to get more education? Do I need to surround myself with different people? What do I need to do? That's my thought. It's not
Yeah.
I'm stopped because of, I'm Black and I'm a woman. No, that is not my thought. I'm stopped because I maybe don't have enough education. I don't know the right people. Haven't been in the right circumstances or situations. So what do I need to do to fix that? I need to find those people. I need to join those groups. I need to meet, whoever I need to meet. Because the other thing my mom always said is there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
And one monkey don't stop no show. So I've always had this fight in me to not be denied something that I truly feel passionate about.
What stands out to me so strong is that I asked you, what are the stories that you tell? And you basically just said, I don't tell no stories. There's nothing. Like, I reached a point in my life multiple times where I said, I don't have this thing or I want to accomplish this thing. And instead of saying, I don't have enough education, I guess, it is what it is. It's too hard. I'm not going to get any more education because I got kids to raise and stuff to do. No, you said, okay, I need to accomplish this goal. I'm going to do these things. You didn't
Right.
hide behind lies that you tell yourself.
Mhm.
That's why you succeed. And that's why you thrive.
Right. Right. I'm so grateful for this conversation. I truly am, because I have never put all these words together this way in quite this way. And I really love your perspective and helping me see, that I always knew that I didn't have to be labeled. I didn't have to wear these labels and that I could overcome any obstacle put in front of me because my mom said so.
Yeah.
But then she also showed me how, like what to do. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to buy into the lies, especially being a teen mom,
Yeah.
which I did go on welfare for a very short amount of time. I unfortunately have to say that I was a teen mom on welfare.
I think that's fortunate. How fortunate
Really?
that you were willing to take help that was there and
Yes.
that you weren't willing to allow it to define you and you were willing to use it as a stepping stool to move you forward.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that was exactly my mindset.
Hmm.
I was like, this is just temporary. This is just for the moment, just to help me get to my next level. Because in my head, I'm still thinking I'm a statistic. Here I am, a statistic.
Yeah.
Then, I had to, fight through that to say it's temporary. It is just temporary to help you. This is not a lifestyle.
Yeah. It's not who you are.
It's not who I am.
my heart hurts when anybody feels like, well, I can't take that help.
Mhm.
It's not meant to make us feel ashamed, is it?
No, absolutely not. That help is there for a reason.
And we're if we're using it the way it's intended, it's short term, it gets us up on our feet, and then we go back to paying into the system that helps somebody else. It's community. It's community.
100%. 100%. Well said.
Thank you. Well said to you. So let's talk
Nope.
a little bit before we close up about community, because you have talked about this community of women. You've talked about the Amish community that supported you. What does your community look like right now that supports you? Maybe it's the women you work with. I don't know. What does it look like?
So my community now is still amazing. So those same women that reached out to back then, they're still a very important part of my life, but my circles have grown. And so now I also have a community of women who are Christian women business owners, who are all about kingdom business and running their businesses to honor and glorify God. And they're super successful and they've been through a lot, so they can help me navigate these new audiences or these new circles that I'm being invited to or that I have joined and made myself a part of. So those community relationships are so important, not just for the support as a business owner, helping you navigate all the different things, but also in terms of helping you grow your business because they all know people
Yeah.
who know people who know people who can make things happen to help propel you to another level that you didn't even know existed. So it's so important, I think, to not only be the recipient of all the wisdom and advice and that sort of thing, but now that I've been through a few things, I can add into the conversation about what my experience has been and how I was able to get through different things. So I feel like more of a contributor
Yeah.
instead of a taker.
And it sounds like there's a lot of give and take on all counts. That's so good. That's
Absolutely.
what
Yeah.
a gift.
Yeah.
And it's clear to me that your family has always been an integral part of your tight community that's close to you. How does your family now support you in your business, and what does that look like?
Oh, that is such a fun question, because my sons have, like I said, they did their own thing for the longest time, still doing their own thing. My youngest son decided a long time ago that he was gonna go into sales and sell cars. And I was like, when he told me that, I my heart skipped a beat. And I was like, "Are you sure, honey? That's so risky." I mean, that there's no stability, there's no certainty, there's no 2-week paycheck, there's no paid vacation. I mean, I was terrified for him. And I tried really hard not to on him, but I don't think I did it very well because I'm glad he continued to recognize his own gifts and skills and talents and is now a very successful salesman. And he sells lots of cars. My oldest son is also, very good. He's very persuasive, got the gift of gab, and is very charming.
Mhm.
And so my sons are very supportive of me in the business. And so whenever I have a question about how things might resonate with the younger people today, if I'm trying to make inroads into an area that they're more familiar with, they're very forthcoming with advice. I have an uncle who was a business executive for IBM, and he gives me advice on different things I need to consider as I'm making different moves and things like that. So everyone has been so, so super supportive. I have family members on the team that support me with clients. I mean, it's just really wonderful to have the support of my family.
That's beautiful. Family is a beautiful, beautiful gift. The
Well, hold
last
on. I'm sorry. And my husband.
Oh,
He's
yes, talk
been my
about your
number
husband.
one fan. I can't leave this show without giving him his props because he has truly been my biggest cheerleader through all of this. Because we've been together since 1995. I think that's almost 25 years, if I'm not mistaken.
It's more than that because
30? Have
yeah,
we hit that?
20 well, I got married in 2001, and this is our 24th wedding anniversary, so you got, like, 6 more years, 6 more
So
years on that? I don't do
yeah, so
math
30.
well.
Yeah, 30. So my math
Yeah,
is
30.
horrible. So
You're at 30, girl.
I'm at 30. So I've been with my husband for 30 years, and he has seen me in every single phase of this growth before the business, starting the business, in the business, and all of the things, and has nothing but words of wisdom to share and guidance. And he's so smart. And so I'm so blessed to have him by my side through all of
Good husbands are a
this.
blessing.
Absolutely.
100%. So Renee, what is your best advice or one little nugget, whatever you want to share, to women who are seeking to know themselves better, to figure out their voice in a world that is constantly shoving labels on them? Because you're pretty good at ignoring those labels and choosing your own. What is your best advice for them?
I would say be brave. Just be brave. Feel the fear and do it anyway. There was something that I was doing to growing the team. I was terrified. I was down on my knees, bawling and crying to God about how scared I was to do this thing that I was getting ready to do. And He just comforted me so much through all of this, giving me such a peace that to let me know that this is what I was supposed to be doing. So be brave, feel the fear, do it anyway. Cry if you have to, kick and scream if you have to, but only you have the gifts, skills, and talents that you have. Nobody else has what you have. Don't deprive the world of your gifts.
Wow, I could end on that right there, but I want to give our audience a chance to come and find you and work with you if they want. Where's the best place for them to come and find out more about Executive Help Now or about you in general?
So we have a website at www.executivehelpnow.org.
Okay.
Even though we're not a nonprofit, it's still .org. That's a whole nother story for another day. But we're on all the socials, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram at Executive Help Now. If someone is curious to know whether or not they're ready for a virtual assistant, because some business owners don't know, they're like, I just know I'm busy, but am I ready for a virtual assistant? They can text the letters VANOW, so VA now, to 1-866-943-3591 and get a little brochure to help them through that thought process.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, Renee, thank you so much for the gift of your time. And I look forward to getting to know you better because I am going to be following you on all the places. And I hope everybody else does too.
Thank you so much. And we have a YouTube channel too for Renee Speaks.
Renee Speaks. Oh, and don't you have is that your podcast? You have a
Yeah.
podcast too, right? Renee Speaks.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. That's our podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to the Story of Her podcast, a story of her journey, her truth. Real women sharing stories of trial, triumph, and everything in between, with your host, Aleesha Bake. One thing that really helps podcasters reach a wider audience is when you follow the show or hit that like or share button or even leave a review. If you'd be willing to do any of those things for me, I would really appreciate it. I'd love to get this message to a broader audience of women. Thanks a lot.